Hi, welcome everyone for another episode of Operation Brown Girls Podcast. I am your host, Valita Smith, and today's episode is all about embracing the season of rest and reflection, right? So we're taking a sacred pause as we enter into fall and we exit out of summer. In Ohio, there are already very clear, visible signs that fall is upon us. So, what I have noticed for myself is that as the seasons change and Earth goes into a season of releasing and resting, I find myself naturally matching that energy. So, in the autumn, I like to take time to slow down, to rest, to let go. And especially as we move into winter, I really am intentional about not overexerting myself and using that time to go inward and reflect and just acknowledge what and where I am, so that when spring comes, I am ready to blossom and bloom. It wasn't until maybe last year, though, I started aligning my work with that. Um, well, my work was aligning with that on its own, because when the fall and the winter would come, I would just seem to fall off. Like, I wouldn't post as often. I didn't really care to host as many events. But it wasn't until last year that I acknowledged, why don't I slow down with everything? You know, why am I beating myself up that when the earth is resting and recovering, I'm not able to keep up with my hustle? So last year, I intentionally, or this past year, only hosted events in the spring and the summer. And I allowed myself the fall and winter to plan and to do behind the scenes work as far as Operation Brown Girl. And so this is some of that work. And I also know for a lot of people, including myself, as we go into fall and winter, we can notice a shift in our moods as well. And seasonal affective disorder, winter blues, cabin fever, a lot of those things begin to have an effect on us. And so, with everything that's going on in the world, a lot of heavy things, a lot of low vibrational things, just to be frank about it. I wanted a soft place to land. Like, when you scroll your feed and you come across one of my posts, I don't want it to add weight. I wanted to remove some of that weight. I wanted to help you hold your head up a little higher, help you take a deeper breath, help you unclench your jaw and relax your shoulders. I wanted to make you laugh. I wanted to make you feel glad that you're a woman, be glad that you're alive, feel like you can make a difference. So this podcast is a part of that soft place. And I've created a Facebook group, but just a winter connection group for those of us who kind of want to get ahead of, some of the winter blues that may be ahead of us, and just have a community to hang out with and talk to. It's only a temporary group. It'll end on the last day of winter. It opens on the first day of autumn. But I'd love to have you over there. I'll release some meditations in the group and just a few engagement posts. Again, this is my off season as well. I will be active as far as a part of the community, but not so much in the role of facilitator, if you follow. So let's check in. How are you feeling today? And I don't want just I'm okay, I'm good, fine, happy, sad, mad, angry. I want you to dig a little deeper, right? And if you don't have one, I recommend looking up an emotional wheel, which has a more expanded vocabulary of emotion words or feeling words. Because there's power in naming it, right? It's one thing to say, I feel sad, but it's another thing to say, I feel hopeless or I feel numb. It's one thing to say, I feel scared, but it's another thing to say, um, I feel fragile or I feel vulnerable, right? So let's dig a little deeper. And maybe you're driving and listening to this podcast and you're not able to pull that wheel up right now, but try to look it up later and maybe screenshot it. I find it to be very helpful. Very helpful. So, how am I feeling today? I am feeling motivated. Actually, I've been feeling very motivated for like the past 2 weeks, and I'm not really sure why. I mean, it's welcome, but I don't feel like anything has happened to spark that. But yeah, I feel motivated. I feel motivated. And I feel inspired that you're here and that you're listening and that makes you a part of this community. And that's what Operation Brown Girl is all about, is creating communities for women, right? So, welcome. I'm your host, Valita Smith, if I didn't say that already. And we're going to be getting into this season of rest and reflection. Let's take a slow, deep breath. Hold it. Release. Okay. Hopefully you feel a little more present and with us. I feel like most of us would agree that this time of year is very beautiful with all the leaves changing colors and when they fall off the trees. It feels very magical. And it is, right? But it's interesting because it's a season of release. Things are falling off, letting go, coming to an end. And it's so beautiful. But in our lives, I don't feel like we think of things coming to an end and letting go as something that's beautiful. And maybe, you know what, maybe the tree doesn't feel like it's beautiful. I don't know. But that's definitely a perspective change, right? Because when we let go, we have the capacity in the room for something new, right? Think about it. Like when you clean your room, like when you give it a good clean and you like get rid of stuff, donate stuff, whatever you're doing with it, but you clear it out of the space. it's like all of a sudden I feel like I have all of these creative juices flowing. Like I could color. You know what? Now I'm going to lay down and read a book. Oh my God, I have so much room. I could do yoga in here. Let me get my yoga mat. Like it's all of a sudden there's space to expand, to create, to do, to make, right? And that is what the earth is doing, right? As fall is here or coming and earth begins to release and let go and go into a season of rest. When spring comes, right, has created something new. It's birthed something. It's bringing something forward. So I want us to honor that, right? If everything in nature is seeming to pause, why do we struggle to give ourselves that grace? And I know a huge part of that is that we live in a capitalist society. Hustle, hustle, go, go, get, right? But what does it mean to rest? And why do some of us struggle with that? And rest it doesn't have to mean doing nothing, right? Rest doesn't have to mean doing nothing. It can mean simply slowing down, right? Just taking the time to be present. Rest. Just take a break. Yeah, like just take a pause. A pause for yourself. I find that having slowed down, first of all, let's talk about this. Because, you know, when everything closed down, I was forced to slow down, right? Kids didn't have sports. Kids didn't even have to leave the house to go to school. We weren't out. We weren't going. We were home. So things were slower. And in the beginning, I really appreciated that. As a mom of 3 kids, I was so relieved that I didn't have to cram another thing, figure out how to get dinner in between. I was ecstatic. But as things began to open back up and life began to pick back up, I just didn't pick up as much. So my life is nothing like it was before as far as how crammed it was. I feel like my life now has room to breathe. Before, I don't think you could have put another thing on my schedule. Yeah. And I would probably say my mind reflected that. I wouldn't say that my mental health was suffering or I was managing it. It felt manageable. But I also am aware that if, anytime something additional was asked of me, it felt impossible. Because how? When? Where? What? I was stretched to capacity, as I imagine a lot of you were as well. And then whoop, everybody goes inside. Now I have all of this extra room to hold things, and it felt nice. So as the world opened back up, I added things back on, but I didn't put myself at capacity where there was no room. I just didn't do that. And so with the extra space that I have, life is just more enjoyable for me. And now as we enter this season of rest, I will slow down. I don't know what I'll take off my list because really there's nothing for me to take off. I just slow down. Maybe I don't do what I did with as much intensity, but also I intentionally feel those extra spaces um, with things that make me feel rested, rejuvenated, help me to recover, right? So I'll plug in extra walks outside. I'll take my time and make tea, but like in a fancy way. Like I won't, okay. So I'm real, in general, when I make a cup of tea, I'll get my cup, I'll put some sugar in it, I put my tea bag in it. All the time, the hot water is running from the faucet. Our water gets really hot. I put that in, shoop, 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 shoop. That's my tea. I blow it, I drink it. But when I'm being intentional about nourishing myself and treating myself, you know how tea is whatever, but when you're at a hotel and they have all those tea packets lined up and the different kind of sugar, tea feels fancy all of a sudden. So I try to give myself fancy moments as a form of self-care and luxury. So I'll get the really expensive tea or the ones that's in the fancy shaped sachet or whatever you call it. And I'll get creamer, like flavored creamers for my tea and the little tiny teaspoon. And I'll get a salt, like I'll do it up. So it's not so much something extra on my plate, but it's about how I do it, the ritual, the way, right? So when you think about entering into this season of pause and rest, I want you to also think about enriching it and making it luxurious. Think about the things associated with this time of year, like the rich colors, the golds, the orange, the burgundy. Think about like the texture of things this season. Like I think about cashmere, I think about fleece, like things that are really soft. I think about certain smells, pumpkin, apple, cinnamon, nutmeg. Um, does caramel have a smell? Maybe chocolate is a fall smell, maybe, right? And so just taking the time, I also really like to indulge around this time, like with the tea. It doesn't even have to be, something extremely largely monetary. Just be kind to yourself. Be nice to yourself. Spoil yourself a little bit. You deserve it. In case you didn't know, in case you forgot, in case you were questioning it. You deserve it. We all deserve it. Let's take a deep breath and pause. Still reminding myself to slow down. Even, sometimes I'm doing the dishes. I hate doing the dishes. If you've followed me long enough or come to it's the chore I hate the most. If you've never heard me say it, you'll hear me say it again. When I'm washing the dishes, they're getting clean, but I'm looking at the clock like I've been doing this for 3 minutes. I've been doing this for 6 minutes. Like I want to get it done and over with. And sometimes I'll have to tell myself, "Ooh, girl, slow down. The water is warm. The soap is nice. It's not that bad. Put some music on. Get into it." And then it's like, before I know it, I'm like, I'm done. there's something about being present. There's something about being present that really changes the way that time moves or feels. So when you think about it, pause and take the time to be present. Like in this moment, I have everything I need, right? There's no impending danger around me. I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. I'm not scared. Like, I'm here and I'm okay. And sometimes I like to do that when I'm feeling anxious about something, especially if I feel anxious and I don't know why I feel anxious. I'll just tell myself, are you safe? Yes, I'm safe. Do you need anything? I need some water. Okay, let's get some water. All right. So as we move into this quieter season, what's one thing that you're ready to release so you can make space for something else or so you can have space? For me, it's talking to people I don't want to talk to. Entertain people just sometimes because it feels like I'm being nice, but I'm not being nice to myself because I don't want to do it. So, yeah, maybe. I feel like that sounds mean, but it's not mean. I'm not being mean. I'm just taking care of myself. And I know that as the season comes, I may not be at as many social events. So I'm going to be intentional about making sure the ones that I do attend are very filling for me. Very like, it's where I want to be, not where I feel obligated to be. I think, I think that aligns. I think that aligns. So if you're feeling the pull to slow down, to reconnect with yourself, to, find community, especially as we move into the winter season, then I again invite you to join the Winter Connection Circle. That's our Facebook group. Or you can sign up to join our newsletter as well. And I'll have the link in there. That's like a one-stop shop for you. And then that way you'll know what other things we have going on in the community during this slow, restful season, rejuvenating season. All right. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you enjoy the show. Leave a comment, like, rate us, rate me, and enjoy your day.